Good morning. Good morning and welcome. This is Monday. Welcome to Monday Motivational Monday. And I say to you, good morning. Can you all hear me okay? I am coming to you live. Hi, Celeste. Good morning. Thank you for joining Vibe Talk. Good morning. Good morning. How are you? What are you thankful for and why? And you are in Vibe Talk. Celeste, have you been here before? Good morning, Trish, to our manager, Trish. Good morning. You have not been here before? Why is the LOL? We are a wellness podcast. And I want to say to you, good morning. Trish is our manager. Good morning, Trish. I got a late start this morning. But for all of you that know, we are here at 5:30 Eastern Time. And Celeste, what are you thankful for and why? We're going to start our week out right. And today is the day to begin a new week. And Trish, that's okay. Trish, I want to give you a special shout out just because you ran Vibe Talk without me. And you are my co-host as well as my manager. Thank you so much. Celeste says, I'm thankful for waking up in the morning because I'm glad to be here. Aw, Celeste, thank you so much. Celeste, what state are you listening in from? Can you guys hear me okay? I am still on vacation, but nevertheless, I want to get back and as host, and my co-host, Trish, did such a nice job, and you're very welcome. For those of you who did not listen to any of the pre-records, you can find us as soon as Trish gets settled. She can tell you, and I don't want to be taking over your job, Trish. She's fixing her coffee, as she says. And what I would want you guys to do, if this is the first time that you're here, we are at, Celeste from Texas. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. In case you guys are wondering how to find us, you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Facebook at Vibe-Talk. Vibe-Talk. We're also on Instagram. But at the half hour of the podcast, we always go over to Facebook. That's been working out really well for us, hasn't it, Trish? For us to be able to open our Facebook pages. And thank you so much, Celeste. I am on vacation, and I'm co-hosting from Utah. Trisha's co-hosting all the way from South Carolina. How about that? I want to thank you that are joining us. Every day is a brand new day to begin your best day ever. Your best day ever. As a wellness coach, we strive for best and greatest. If you've been feeling kind of down, or if you've been feeling depressed or sad or any of the negatives, you've found a place to come where you can express your feelings, and there is no one that passes judgment. We want other people to be able to come here, and we want people to be able to say how they feel. And so Vibe Talk provides positive motivation, and we also want to feed you with inspiration. We are on Facebook. We hope that you stay for the entire hour and a half, or as long as you can. As soon as Trisha's done, she will put up the information for all of you to find us, both here on Facebook. Trisha, on Facebook too? I hope that you are on Facebook as well, or your Facebook is open, and that's how you find us. Don't let this be your last time running into Vibe Talk. We also pre-record, just so that you know. Our pre-records are for you when we're not here to be able to talk to us. You may interact on our pre-records as well, or live. Don't forget to click your button for your notifications on Facebook. My week, as of Friday, has been really great. Fresh air, greenery. I mean, you've got all the beauty here that you ever want to see. And I know that some of you are already living in beautiful places. Today, we're going to be talking about what's on your mind for Motivational Monday. So, anybody out there that wants to call directly, you may do so in calling directly. What is on your mind? At the top of the Spoons platform, you have numbers. If you want to call in, you can do that. And we are going to, as soon as next week starts, on Monday morning, we're going to let you call through while we are live. And Trisha and I are going to be on live where you can hear our voices. So I want you to be thinking about how Vibe Talk can help you, not only today, but getting you prepared. We want to try to help people to express their feelings. Too many people are taking their own lives. Too many people are still walking around without expressing themselves, not ever being heard. How many of you agree with that? That there's too many people that really don't talk about their feelings? Anybody? Trisha, you're still here? How many people, if you're understanding what I'm saying, feel like they're walking around without people really hearing or listening? Celeste, you agree with that? You know, last week we dedicated a podcast to Naomi Judd. And Naomi Judd is part of the Judds, country singer. Love to hear them sing together. And Ashley Judd is Naomi Judd's daughter. She's a famous actress. We dedicated, do you remember that, Trish, when we dedicated our podcast, one of them, to her? We want you to know that there's always a place where you can come. This is free. We want more people to find out about Vibe Talk. I think a lot of people should find out about this. Is my co-host Trish here? Is my co-host Trish here? Stay with us as we give you inspiration. Trish, I'm going to need you to open up the Facebook part so that as you're there, you can greet people as I do. Are you here? Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I'm not getting any feedback. Okay. Can you open your page on Facebook if you can, please, and thank you. And today we're going to be talking about what is on your mind. We're so glad to have you all come. While you're here, Celeste, since this is your first time coming here, I want to give you a rundown of what we do here. You know some things now, but we also have a wellness class. By the way, our wellness class will not be... Oh, yes, it will. It will be this Saturday. We do it every other Saturday. Thank you, Trish, for doing that. Thank you so much. Every other Saturday. So this would be the time. This upcoming Saturday. Just remember, if you have a notification for your Facebook, find our page and set your notification, because every time I come on, you're going to be able to see me. And our wellness class is all about art. All about art. You being able to express yourself through art. So far, we've worked on flowers. We've done the pudding one. It's called Getting Our Hands Dirty. Getting our hands dirty. And expressing ourselves through emotion. How did you feel about the introduction of what we read? What we read on Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. That's going to be an integral part of our program. We're not going to do it every day, but we're going to do it as a project together. Trish, were you able to listen to any of that? And for Celeste, can you put the link up for her where to find it? That is the entire book, Feelings Buried Alive Never Dies. Now, I read the book in the 90s. That book has, no doubt, been updated with so much stress and things going on. It's been updated. And so, as you were only supposed to do the very introduction. So, you could go ahead and read ahead of it. You can go ahead and read ahead of it. Yeah, the introduction. Yeah. And when you listen to her read, the person that's reading is not the author. The person that's reading has decided to put that entire book online. Yes, baby. You can read ahead if you want to, but I only gave you guys that homework assignment. You're going to love this, Celeste, this book, Feelings Buried Alive, Never Die. So many people are afraid to talk about their feelings. And I'm talking to the general audience, if that has been you being afraid to talk about your feelings, I want you to understand that if we don't get past our feelings, they stay within us. That's the whole purpose of this book. If you don't talk about it, how are you expecting to heal? I mean, you will heal somewhat from past and present experiences. But this book is going to be so in-depth that I promise you, just like with Vibe Talk, how Vibe Talk has helped you to rewire yourself. Thank you so much. Vibe Talk has helped you rewire yourself from the negative to a positive, helping you to think about how to motivate yourself. You know, we talk a lot about helping yourself. And I didn't get a chance to play the introduction as I usually do. And Trisha's all of our music. All the music that you hear from Vibe Talk. And I didn't do that because my other device is in the car. But I want you guys to be introduced to one of the most needed podcasts that you'll ever find. Fortunately, we're not like other podcasts. We don't tell creative stories in that we're going to deal with feelings through our emotion, which is our experience. Then we see that other people who come here are just like us. We're at the top 8, by the way. Other people coming in here, you're going to be able to relate to them, knowing that they are real. How many of us have ever had a feeling that we chose not to talk about? We say we are fine. How many of us have ever done that? Myself, I've done that. How many of us have ever said we're fine when we're not? Celeste, Trish, have you ever said that? See, that's how we do that? Yeah. So, I want you, Celeste, to find your hand button, and I want you to use that as a part of your beginning language. When you hear show of hands, you're going to click your electronic button. Why do we say we're fine? Why do you suppose we say we're fine when we are not? Have you ever given any thought to that? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we use that as part of our language. Because you know what, Celeste? A lot of people that come in Vibe Talk aren't as vocal. And so that's the hand gesture, raising your hand, like when you were maybe younger, growing up, you were asked to raise your hand. That's a way of acknowledging the beginning stages. So we start with that. So the question was, why do you think that people find it hard? Trish says because I don't want to be a burden to everyone with my problems. And yeah, that could be number one reason. Thank you for that. So that's my manager, Trish, and my co-host. And she says that's why she says she's fine. Now, I may say I'm fine because I don't want to have to explain it. Or I may feel that others are not going to understand my experience and how it made me feel. How many of us have ever been there where we think someone may not understand how we felt about something? Yeah. Celeste, you ever felt like that? Good job. Yeah. And so what Vibe Talk does, it helps us. When you see up there us facing the lions, lions are probably one of the stronger creatures in the animal kingdom. And so I use lions because they're my favorite, because they let you know they're courageous, they're bold, they're fearless. And so we take all the negative and we add it to the positive so that you become a lion or a lioness in your character. When you think about a fierce lion, you say, wow, that lion is powerful. So in here, we gain our power back. Many people, good morning, Ray. Many people believe they're powerless. And we're going to get into that. We're going to start with the very young. We're going to start with the very young because young children are very impressionable. Young children are very open, most of them. But now if you've had an experience, let's say you have had child abuse, you have seen domestic violence, you have been sexually abused by someone that you've trusted, most people will tell you they felt powerless, that have experienced those things that I just said. Most people will say that someone that they knew, someone that they trusted, someone took their power, someone overpowered them. You get the words that I'm using about the lion? And so in here, we become lion-like because we're able to empower ourselves with the ability, with capability, with being able to understand what was the feeling. Because, you can talk and talk and talk and talk without really understanding yourself. How many of you have ever been there where you're just talking up a storm, but you do not understand what is going on with your emotions? We've all been there, myself included. Ray, you ever been there? Where you just feel like you're talking and no one, not even you, understands you. And you feel absolutely powerless. Well, Vibe Talk teaches you how to empower yourself. Ray says yes. And so that is why we relate to the lion. Because you understand the characteristics of a lion. So in here, you get to take your power back. You get to be allowed to be empowered so that you're able to connect, gain access, understand, become more knowledgeable, intelligent. We call that emotional intelligent. The things that I said earlier about your experience with domestic violence, your experience if you've ever been abused, if you've had any kind of emotional or mental neglect. You are becoming aware of yourself every time you step into Vibe Talk. And you're able to understand why you were feeling those feelings. I want to tell you something else. If you guys are doing by the way, Ray, I got your plant. You can, your petals of life, what your emotional experiences have been. Yeah, now Celeste, if you'd like one, I'd be more than happy to send it to you. But at the root of the flower, there stands the beginning, the center of where your problem began. Sometimes we talk and talk and talk. Remember how I said that? And we don't even understand. We don't understand. We don't have a clue as to the root. I ask you, where did it all start? And some of you, when you first came here, you say, well, I don't know. But some of you have become aware because it's been the very first time that you've talked about it. See, lions don't stray. They're focused most of the time, and that's why they can easily access their prey. But in here, you're focused to easily access because you're aware. You don't take your eyes off of what we're talking about. You dig deep. And so you become unafraid. Maybe the first time you feel afraid, a little uncomfortable, because if nobody ever asks you, Celeste or Ray or Trish, if nobody ever asks you, hey, how you doing? Nobody ever asks you that. You would not go around and say to every person in your pathway, I'm fine today, or I'm not okay today. We've met no people like that will just tell us off the cuff before we ask. And so now, when you come into Vibe Talk, we say, what? You do know how you feel. I let you get away with it a couple of times by saying what? I don't know. I don't know. And then when I'm working with you, you're able to understand really that you do know. Remember how I talked about the root of the plant, the center? That's your center, where it all started from, all those negatives. Like when I drew my flower, I could look back and I can say, well, the center of my problem started from somebody hurting me, causing me pain. Where maybe somebody else's center of their flower is going to be maybe even something positive. But from that positive experience, we can go back into the negative. See, it can reverse itself. Or it can blossom and bloom into something that remains the positive. And that's what that plant was all about. How many of you got that? Trish, did you understand that? Ray, did you understand why you were doing the flower? Because today's a good day to talk about that as we motivate ourselves. Yeah. What did you find out about yourself as you did the flower, Ray and Trish, so we can help Celeste understand a little bit better? What did you understand? And we always do creative. Remember how I said that the podcast is not about creative stories? Well, I have to retract that statement, and this is a good time to do it. We do creative things, but yet we're doing it with a purpose. There are no fantasies. This is all factual. What did you find out about yourself, Ray, when you did the flower? Because I got your flower and I'm going to be posting them today. What did you find out about yourself, Ray? And we're going to ask this question every time we do an assignment. What did you find out about yourself? Trish, what did you find out about yourself? Ray, because we want to be helpful to all the new people that are coming in so that they understand that Vibe Talk is not going to be a waste of their time. As you guys explained to me, Ray, can you hear me okay? Trish, can you hear me okay? As you start to understand, okay, because I just didn't have you do that just because I felt like drawing flowers. Every petal that you see, let me ask you something that you might think is really stupid, Celeste. Have you ever saw a flower up close in your lifetime? While they explain. Is everybody able to hear me okay? If you're able to hear, okay. So, you've had a flower. Have you noticed on a flower there are petals? All those petals did not develop all at once. That's a scientific fact. They didn't just appear all at one time. You had the center. The center, first there was the root from that stem to grow. And then, as it started to form and develop, you had a center. Everyone and everything has a beginning. Everything that's ever lived on the earth has a beginning. You take that center, and that center is forming petals. In the petals of life, you have experienced something. Each petal is representative of a representation of everything you have experienced. Trish says, I learned that self-doubt caused me to bloom very slow. I realized that each petal drew a timeline. And Ray says, I'm strong even if I feel like the world is against me. I'm a loving person who doesn't like to give up. I'm there for everyone else, yet I'm not there for myself, or no one's there for me. You see the two types of feelings there, Celeste? Thank you both for that. I feel that that flower, every flower, may look the same, but are not the same. You have green flowers, blue flowers. Where I'm here, this town is saturated with beautiful tulips, and yet they have petals. On that petal, they've had to be strengthened from their struggle. Because after all, where do flowers originate from? From the dirt ground, right? So you may feel like what? You've come through so much in life. But you have risen above everything. See, at first that flower wasn't pretty. Before it became to form as a flower, it was a seed. That was its very beginning. And so as you nurture that seed every day, you soiled, you made sure the dirt was just right. You set it in sunlight, you watered it. You may not have overwatered it, because sometimes we can overwater and those planted seeds come up. You ever saw a wilted flower? Some of us can be like the wilted flower. How does a flower get wilted anyway? Anybody have any idea? Let's talk about that. Does anybody have any idea of how a flower gets wilted? Trish says it doesn't get enough sunlight. Yeah, sunlight. Or it may get too much of sunlight. It has to be in the right environment. Let's stay with this thought for a moment as we learned on Motivational Monday. If a plant needs to be in the right environment to grow, Ray says lack of sunlight. Now, if a plant is not in the right environment, think about that plant. It's a living thing, right? How many agree that a plant is a living thing? That's scientific fact. We don't have to even go and do a study. How many of you know that a plant is a living thing? Trish knows it. Ray, did you know that? It's a living thing. Celeste, you knew that? Ray, you knew that? Well, let me tell you something. You are a living thing. You are far more superior than any petals on a flower. I want to pull up my chair and say that to you again so that you understand it. You are a living thing. You are far more worth all of the petals on that flower. And so you human, you that are housed in your own mind and your own body, you need proper environment. You need sunlight. You need to be nourished so that you don't become the wilted flower. How many of you understand what we're talking about thus far by show of hands? How many of you understand? If you don't understand, just say, I don't understand. Anybody in here understand what's being discussed? Trish, thank you for the flower, Trish. That was cute. Ray, do you understand? Celeste, are you understanding? Celeste is not here anymore. Okay. So you are far more worth than any flower. The most beautiful flower. When you learn that about yourself, what you need to feed on, don't become the wilted flower. Become the flower that blossoms and everyone looks at and you look at most of all and you say, boy, what a beautiful flower. How many of us have ever said that in our lifetime about a flower? Flowers, I know that I am my mother's child. I am my mother's child because my mother loves flowers. Oh my goodness. My mom loves flowers. I am one and the same that I love flowers. Trish says, I have, and I used to pick them and bring them home to my mom. Yeah. And what was your mom's reaction to that, Trish? Now, let me show you what people do in the sight of flowers. What was your mother's reaction? And tell your mother good morning for me and love. What was your mom's reaction? You know, let's talk about the flower for a moment, right? I ask that at every turn because we've been talking about flowers all morning. You men, you guys out there, even you respond to it. Let me show you how. You get the flowers because why? And this is not every guy, but how many of you guys out there have gotten flowers because your better half was upset with you? And so you needed the quick fix. So you said, let me go out and get her a bouquet of flowers. Right? let me go out. Because why do you do that? Well, I ask about the response of the people. Trish says about her mom, she was always so happy and would quickly put them in a vase because it's a gift from me. Mom says good morning. Tell her hello and love. So now you men, you go out, you get the flowers because why? Trish says that her mother is happy to receive that. You understand that flowers evoke feelings. How many of you just got that point? By show of hands. That flowers evoke feelings. Yeah. Trish, how about you, Ray? Did you get that? How it made Trish's mom feel happy? And so you men that run out and you get the quick fix because you know that it's going to make your woman happy. You know that it's going to make your better half happy. And so as you're pulling off of that freeway, there goes somebody, I don't know in your town, but I know it's in my town, selling flowers right on the corner. Because you don't have time to get a makeup gift or a get well gift. And so we say, well, let me go and bring somebody flowers because you know that flowers evoke happiness. Let's talk about those feelings. Josh, good morning. Good morning, Josh. And Ray says flowers are in a way the purest form of happiness to a woman's heart. Yeah. So do you understand the feeling of happiness? Do you understand? What other feelings come from flower giving? Right? Josh, it's so good to see you. By the way, Josh, there's someone with your last name, and I can't think of it now, but I want to give them a special shout out because they too liked the page. They have your last name. Is that your dad, uncle, brother? We want to give them a shout out as well. Welcome in, Josh. We're talking about Monday motivation, and we're talking about petals of life. That's okay, baby. I understand. You are so good right now. I love it. He said he's trying to get his headphones working. We see you, baby. Come on in. Good morning to whomever just came in. Eve. Good morning. And how are you? Thank you for joining Vibe Talk. I love this. Tell your mother thank her so much for joining in. I love when she joins in. Trish says my mom says my dad used to send her a bouquet of flowers every weekend. It made her feel special. Look at the feelings. Trisha's mom says special. What other feelings do flowers bring? They bring, oh, you're good, Eve. You're so good. Eve has joined us on Facebook. We're all going to go over there in just a few moments. Eve says hello. She says, my first time. You are forgiven. There's no need to apologize about anything. We're glad you're here. What state? My manager says, thank you, Eve, with hearts. Thank you for joining us. Eve, what state are you listening in from, sweetie? Ray says, love and joy to your significant others. Joy. She's talking about the flowers. Yes, hello, everyone, and thank you. You're so welcome. Eve, where are you from and what are you thankful for? Wow. You just made my heart burst. Melbourne, Australia. Did you get that, Trish? All the way from Australia. Yeah. How is it down under? How is it down under? We're so glad you're here. Josh, you okay? You got your headphones in? Yeah. Thank you so much. How'd you hear about us, Eve? How did you hear about Vibe Talk? Oh, yeah. Trish says that flowers evoke in her peace. It makes her feel peace. There's so many varieties, aren't they? Are you still here, Eve? You still here? I hope I didn't lose her. Eve, are you still here? I don't see her. She was here. She was here. So now, as we talk about flowers, even when people die, flowers evoke emotion. Flowers bring, as we learn, joy, peace. Trisha's mom said, made her feel special. That for me too. There you are. Trisha's over here. But now, flowers. How many of us have went to funerals and we see flowers? How many of us have seen that? You said your things are dead, Josh. You okay? They're dead. Josh, we want to give a special shout out. He said that his things are dead. Yeah, so all of you have been to a funeral. If flowers can evoke happiness, joy, and peace, and yet we go to people's funerals, why do you suppose flowers are at that funeral? Let's think about these emotions here, because you're going to get a feel of something. I wish that everybody that comes in here would stay in here, because you're going to learn something. Trish, you got your Facebook open still? Okay. Everyone who comes in here, I wish that you're going to stay. Because we're going to be motivated by something. And at the end, Trisha's going to ask her question. Oh, Trish, that's very interesting. Remember how I asked you the question, all of you? Why are funerals, if They evoke all this that we've all talked about. And tell your mom thank her for joining us. I appreciate that. Trish says she thinks they represent change. How so, Trish? Because there's a very significant power to your point. There's a power to what you just said. How so, Trish? Ray says rest in peace forever to the person or loved one who is deceased. We're touching on something, and I want to help you understand what it is that we're touching on. So how do they represent? Thank you for that, Ray, because that's a powerful point that Trish is talking about, representing change. And before I say anything else, I'm waiting for Trish because I don't want to take away from her thought. I always want to not think I always have to say something, but let you guys talk because this is your format to be able to share how you feel, your thoughts. How do flowers represent change at a funeral? She says the change can mean that your life is about to be way different without that person. Your life is about to be way different. Because every funeral I've ever been to, every memorial service I've ever been to, there's always flowers. And some of them are the most beautiful flowers. And you go, wow, those are really beautiful. How many of you ever did that? You say, wow, the way they did the flower wreath and the way they did the flowers. Let's talk about this. That change, that transformation between life and the living is just the opposite of death and dying. How many of you understand that? That flowers represent living. Flowers evoke happiness. But now flowers also mean transforming change. Trish, you are wise beyond your years. Thank you for that. She says, yes, for my grandmother's funeral, the white flowers were so beautiful. Just beautiful flowers. Now, did you see how when Trish talked about the change, transformation change of a condition to us, it means the memory of that person? You know? I have a special request, and I told my sister about it. I said, listen, when I die, I want you to have borrowed flowers. Let me explain to you what borrowed flowers are. I want you to go to the neighbors, because this is what I want, and ask them to borrow their flowers. Not many. You don't need a lot of flowers. Borrowed flowers. Because I told her, because of the way I am and who I am, I love flowers because they represent life. In my funeral, I want there to be understood that I was a living person and that those flowers are going to represent that I had a legacy to live my best life through borrowed flowers. How many of you get that? Ray says, growth full of living to keep moving forward even in the saddest moments that tells you it's time to bloom, and growth to the deceased and for them to become something new, a change. Not me, Trish says, crying. You get it. Borrowed flowers. We're going to think about flowers in a whole different way after this podcast. Because yet, life and living is the opposite of death and dying and not living. Let me tell you something. Some of you haven't lived. You're moving around, but you haven't lived your best life. You haven't begun to understand your best life. Why is that? Because the power that you are capable of having, you doubt yourself. Doubt. A doubting person is like a dying person. Can you understand that? You doubt. Why? Because in that doubt is despair and hopelessness. Not hopeful. Hopelessness. I want you to be a little bit more hopeful with hopefulness. Understand the transformation between the living and the dying. What side would you put yourself on? Because that over there is like the dying flower. How many of you have seen dead flowers? Anybody in this room? Jaden, good morning and welcome. So I've seen dead flowers. Sometimes they're still pretty in their presence. A few weeks ago, when I was ill, a friend came by and delivered me a very beautiful bouquet of pink and white roses with baby breaths. And you know what I told myself oh, those are so beautiful. I knew that one day those flowers are going to die. The other day before I left on my vacation, those flowers, still very pretty, but in a dying state. I want you to understand the fragility that you possess, that you have, that you were born with. You're fragile. And so we say with flowers, wherever we go, handle with care. That's why we put them in the vase, so that we can preserve its life. Do you preserve your own life? Are you able to preserve yourself, your emotions, how you feel, how you have experienced something? Maybe you think that you're going through these changes and it feels like hopelessness or it feels like death. Because many of us have been through what seems to be death-like. We say what? My heart is broken. We say, I feel like I'm dying. Or we say, I want to die because the pain is so bad. And that's why I say, you're not a dying flower. Because those flowers that was given to me weeks ago, they're in a dying condition, but yet there's still beauty. I'll tell you another experience. My son was having surgery. And that was painful for me, even though he had to undergo that. And I was waiting for his surgery to be over. And as I waited, I noticed flowers that were both wilted and lively. Same flower, because they were grouped together on a tree. I pulled out my camera phone and I took that picture of that flower. That flower was full of hope, because inside of those flowers grouped together were lively flowers. You see, it's the nourishment. Maybe those wilted flowers that were bunched together had what is called wilted flower. Too much sun, too much light, not enough water, too much water. Because yet how could that be living and death together? When you said that about change, Trish, I get that. I got that. And I knew you were going to go deep with that. Because you see change. Now, if a flower is offering hope and life, what do you choose? Because you see, again, the flowers that I have, they're now in a dying condition. Does it make them any less prettier? They were beautiful, presented to me. I look at those dying flowers as still beauty within. Do you find that within yourself? Are you likened to a flower? I say to you today, please, understand the beauty, the in-house beauty within you. Because that in-house beauty is like the vase, that vase or vase that covers you, protects you. Do you build that protection around yourself and its environment? How many of you are understanding what I'm saying, or are you lost in translation? Let's ask that question before we conclude. How many of you understand? Trish says she understands. Ray, do you understand? Let this podcast teach us something in which to be motivated from. May it teach us about life and living and hope, comfort, peace, beauty. Oh yeah, one more thing before we conclude this afternoon or morning, excuse me. Why don't we all come over to Facebook? How about that? Let's all get over here, because we're at the concluding of our podcast for today. There's one more place. Weddings. How many of you have ever been to a wedding and you have saw flowers? Many of you. I have been to tons of weddings. Flowers. Flowers evoke all kinds of feelings. They bring us joy. They are representative. You haven't been to one, Ray? Well, you gotta go to a wedding. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to be a wedding crasher. You see, you haven't lived, Ray. Okay, so you guys say you've never been to a wedding. You've seen them on movies, YouTube. But you see flowers, right? But I want you to live a little. Like I said, don't wedding crash. Be a person who lives a little like that flower, because flowers are a representation of life, and your life is so much more precious. Please understand that. So we've talked about the flower, we've talked about the places we've seen them, we talked about the feelings that they evoke, we talked about different occasions and reasons why people get them. So the question for you all today, thank you so much, is, and I'll let Trish ask that question. I want to say to all of you, thank you so much for joining Vibe Talk. Thank you, thank you. We're going to ask the question, because I'm still on vacation. We're going to ask the question. And Trish, what is our concluding question? I want to thank Ray, Trish. I want to thank all of you who have been here, all of you who have made the effort to be here. And I want you to understand that Motivational Monday is going to carry you throughout the week. Remember about the flower. We're going to learn now. Trish, are you there? What is the question for the day, Trish? As a concluding, please and thank you. What have you learned or discovered about yourself today? And what was your experience like here today? What did you discover? Let me start by asking you this to help you along the way today. Did you learn something from this podcast? How many of you learned something from this podcast today? By show of hands. Because when we start to ask you that, you won't be stuck with, well, I don't know. So, what did you learn and discover about yourself? Every podcast is for you to build on and learn from, and to discover that you too can be powerful and not powerless. What did you learn? I'll tell you what I learned while you guys are writing. Don't forget, Trish, to include the states and countries and cities that were here today. I learned that there's life to live. And with our living as we are living, we need to live our best life. No matter what we do, what happens in our life, we can choose our best life. We are not among the wilted because we walk around. We have need. The vase or the vase is about protecting, having boundaries. Because even when we're little, maybe you grew up where your parents didn't protect you, or maybe they protected you too much, because too much of a good thing cannot be positive as well. And so we have to protect our surroundings, and they are called boundaries. Or we can choose to be wilted among the living. That's what I learned. How about you guys? In conclusion, I want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you. Your being here means so much. Last week, Trish did so nicely for us. I want you guys to think about the flower. If you haven't did a flower, please do so. Our manager, Trish, says, today I've learned that I have a choice to continue to bloom into a beautiful flower instead of withering and being stuck. Thank you, Ray. in being stuck in my emotional pain. I have the power to rise out of my despair. Remember, thank you for that. Remember how I talked about each flower gets its start from the dirt? Well, that dirt is metaphoric for our pain. Some of our pain, much of our emotion has been centered from something, some kind of experience. Ray says, I learned that I'm going to start living my best life ever in the sunshine or the wind. I will continue to grow and bloom as a person. Also get invited to a wedding. I love that. Don't be a wedding crasher. Don't do that. But I recommend that you be invited to a wedding. Next time you're invited, go. What was your experience like? Trish says, my experience today was very triggering. See, because we come in Vibe Talk, and you know the thing about Vibe Talk, you never know what we're going to talk about. You always know it's going to be positive, motivation, inspiration. This has been Vibe Talk. We are here for you. When we get someone, what was your experience like here? When we get someone that is way from Melbourne, Australia. I don't live in Australia. You don't live in Australia. But yet someone was here. That tells you something. That it is not in vain. Ray says, my experience was very uplifting, and I am in a good mood today. I am so glad, and thank you for the white heart. Thank you for that. I want to say thank you again to Trish, who is my manager, who has done such a beautiful job in uplifting and keeping you guys encouraged. Today I was a little tired and late, but we got here. I want to say thank you. Thank you for choosing Vibe Talk as your morning motivation. Please join us again tomorrow, same time, and I won't be late. Same place. The states today, Trish says, was South Carolina, Palmdale, California, Texas, Kentucky, and Australia. Countries were Australia. How about that, guys? We were number 8 on the podcast list today, and that means so much. But yet, what even means more to me is that we share what we learn. Share your videos, share the podcast, because they're always live recorded for you. That's why we can say, when I was gone and not able to be here live, we can earnestly say, Vibe Talk, you will not miss a beat. You will not, unless you choose to. This has been Vibe Talk, and I wish you all the best motivational Monday. Have a good day, everyone, and thank you for joining Vibe Talk. We'll see you back here tomorrow on Transformation Tuesday. Bye, everybody.